It's kind of wild when you think about it. Most new products are basically doomed from the start. And it's not because the teams aren't smart or the ideas are bad. It's because they're starting off by asking the completely wrong question. But what if there was a way to, well, almost guarantee you're building something people actually want? Well, there is. And it's called working backwards.
I mean, we've all seen the story play out, right? A brilliant team, a great idea, and then the launch just lands with a thud. The thing is, the failure wasn't in the execution. Nope, it was baked in from the very first meeting. It all comes down to the question you ask before you write a single line of code. And to really see this in action, we gotta go back in time. Back to a single meeting where one little word, spoken at just the right time, changed the course of an entire industry. A word that was ultimately worth billions and billions of dollars. Okay, so picture this. It's 2007. The music industry is watching one company just absolutely crush it in the digital space. And they've come to Amazon with what seems like a slam dunk, a guaranteed winning play. Their advice was super simple, super direct. Just copy Apple's iTunes. I mean, it was a proven model, an absolute cash machine. The logic was solid, the pressure was on, and honestly, for most companies, this would have been a complete no-brainer.
But Jeff Bezos' response was just one single, shocking word: no. And he wasn't just turning down a project, he was rejecting the entire way most people think about innovation. And instead, what did they launch? The Kindle, a kind of quirky, single-purpose device in a world that was moving toward all-in-one gadgets. It was a massive risk that totally changed how we read. So the question is, why? Why say no to a sure thing and yes to this huge gamble? Well, the answer reveals a completely different way of thinking. And that gets us right to the core of this whole thing. It's the difference between two fundamentally opposite ways to create something new: working forwards versus working backwards. So most companies, they work forwards. They look at what they're good at, what tech they already have, how much money is in the budget, and then they ask, all right, team, given all this stuff, what can we build? It's a process that starts from inside the building looking out. And here it is. This is the crucial shift. Working forwards asks, what can we build? Which is all about what's feasible. Working backwards totally flips the script. It starts by asking, what does the customer need? Which is all about desirability. It seems like a tiny change in phrasing, but trust me, it is the difference between a flop and a game-changing product. Now, this isn't just some vague philosophy, right? It's a real practical system. And it's all built around two surprisingly simple documents that literally force you into this customer-first mindset. Okay, so document number one is the press release. Before anyone even thinks about coding, the team writes a one-page press release announcing the finished product to the world. But here's the key: this is not for marketing. It's an internal tool. Think of it like a clarity filter for your idea. See, the press release forces you to answer the hardest questions right up front. What is this thing? Who's it for? What specific problem does it solve better than anything else out there? If you can't say this stuff clearly and in a compelling way from the customer's point of view, the idea dies right then and there, before you waste a single dollar or a single hour of your team's time. Let's just look at the actual Kindle press release for a second. Notice something? There are no technical specs here, no jargon. It's all pure customer benefit, a device that looks and reads like real paper and lets you get a book in under a minute. It focuses on the user's dream, not the engineer's checklist. All right, so once you have a press release that everyone is fired up about, you move to the second document, the FAQ. If the press release is the dream, while the FAQ is the dose of reality. This is where you ask and answer all the tough, nitty-gritty questions to see if the dream can actually be built. And the FAQ really covers two critical areas. First, you've got the customer questions. Seriously, why will they pay for this? What old habits do they have to break to use it? And then you've got the internal questions. What tech are we missing? What are the biggest risks? This is where that big aspirational vision gets hammered into a concrete, operational plan. So that's the theory, but the real power of this whole system is how it stops teams from building the wrong thing. Let me give you a quick example of a team that was heading straight for disaster before this process saved them. So this team was super excited about a new smart onboarding feature. Their press release was all about opening an account in 60 seconds. Sounds great, right? But when they actually showed it to a few customers, they found out nobody cared about 60 seconds. What they hated was filling out a form on their phone, getting interrupted, and then having to start all over again on their laptop. That was the real pain.
So they scrapped the press release and rewrote it. The new focus was Resume Anywhere. They solved the real customer problem, and the results were, well, they were immediate and massive. A 27% drop in people giving up on the sign-up process. The system didn't just clarify the vision, it stopped them from building the wrong thing entirely.
Now look, this process isn't foolproof. There are definitely some common traps. Using fuzzy words like seamless is a big red flag. Listing a bunch of features instead of what the customer actually gets out of it, that's another one. But maybe the biggest mistake of all is skipping the last step. Actually talking to customers to see if your brilliant press release even makes sense to them. Remember, your press release is just a guess. It's a hypothesis, and you have to test it. But you know the best part about all this? You don't need some 6-month strategic planning marathon to get started. You can get a massive amount of clarity in just 90 minutes.
Here's a simple plan. Spend 30 minutes drafting a press release. Be super ruthlessly specific. Then, grab your team for a 45-minute brutal FAQ session. Call out every single risk and dependency you can think of. Finally, use the last 15 minutes to schedule just 3 calls with actual customers. That's it. In an hour and a half, you will know more about your idea's chances of survival than you would in months of internal meetings.
And at the end of the day, that's the real magic of this process. Its number one job isn't to generate good ideas, it's to kill bad ones, and kill them fast. When you're forced to state the customer value in plain English, you find out real quick which ideas are just cool tech looking for a problem to solve. So that leaves us with one last thought. Take a look at the projects you're working on right now. Which one of them started with the question, what can we build, and what would happen if, maybe this week, you flipped it, and you started with a press release from your customer's perfect future?